The diplomatic chamber aboard the Celestial Nexus hummed with tension. Commander Marcus Chen stood among the delegation of human ambassadors, acutely aware that humanity's petition to join the Galactic Council hung by a thread. The assembled representatives of 12 species watched with varying degrees of skepticism as the human contingent presented their case. The Valorians, towering crystalline beings who had ruled the Council for 3 millennia, remained unmoved. Their queen, Lysara the Eternal, sat upon her throne of living light, her expression unreadable. Beside her, partially hidden behind ornate pillars, her daughter Princess Vexa observed the proceedings with curious, multifaceted eyes. Marcus had studied the dossiers. Queen Lysara had lost her mate to a stellar anomaly just cycles ago. The political implications were staggering. A grieving queen held humanity's future in her hands, and by all accounts she found humans primitive, emotional, and unsuitable for the refined council. The presentation droned on. Statistics about human technological advancement, cultural achievements, and diplomatic overtures. Marcus could see it wasn't working. The queen's chromatic aura pulsed with cold dismissal. Then the alarm shattered the chamber's solemnity. A grinding screech of metal. The observation platform where Princess Vexa stood lurched violently, damaged by a micrometeor impact that had breached the station's outer shields. The young Valorian, perhaps only 15 cycles old in human terms, tumbled toward the gap where the railing had torn away. Emergency protocols engaged, sealing the breach, but the damage was done. Vexa clung to a twisted support beam, suspended over a 30-meter drop to the chamber floor. The council erupted into controlled chaos. Valorian guards rushed forward, but their crystalline bodies were too heavy, too rigid for the delicate rescue. The beam groaned under Vexa's weight. Her prismatic form flickered with terror, casting rainbow shadows across the walls. Queen Lysara rose from her throne, her aura blazing white with panic, the first genuine emotion Marcus had seen from her. "Vexa, hold on, my starlight!" Marcus didn't think. He just moved. His human body, smaller and more flexible than most species present, allowed him to navigate the debris field quickly. He scaled the damaged platform using emergency handholds, reaching Vexa in seconds while others were still calculating approach vectors. But when he extended his hand, the princess recoiled. Her eyes, beautiful and alien, were wide with primal fear. She was hyperventilating, if Valorians even breathed in the traditional sense. Her grip on the beam was slipping, her crystalline fingers leaving scratch marks in the metal. "It's okay," Marcus said softly. "I'm here to help." But she didn't understand Standard Galactic in her panic, or perhaps couldn't process it. She pressed herself against the beam, trembling, making the structure sway dangerously. Marcus's mind raced. Every species had calming protocols, but he didn't know Valorian psychology. He only knew what worked for humans, for children. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small container he'd been fidgeting with during the boring presentation. A gift from his daughter before he'd left Earth, a bottle of bubble solution with a small wand. "Watch this," he said gently, unscrewing the cap. He dipped the wand and blew. Iridescent bubbles floated into the air between them, catching the multicolored light of the Valorian architecture. They drifted lazily, defying the recycled atmosphere, each one a tiny rainbow sphere reflecting the princess's frightened face. Vexa's panicked movements slowed. Her multifaceted eyes tracked a bubble as it floated past, then another. Her breathing, or whatever analogous process Valorians used, began to steady. Marcus blew more bubbles, creating a small storm of them. Some popped against Vexa's crystalline skin with soft, harmless bursts. One landed on her nose, making her blink in surprise rather than fear. "They're called bubbles," Marcus explained, his voice calm and warm. "My daughter loves them. They're fragile, beautiful, and they don't last long. But while they're here, they're pretty amazing, aren't they?" The princess reached out tentatively, poking a bubble. It popped with a tiny spray of soap. The corner of her mouth, or the Valorian equivalent, quirked upward. "That's it," Marcus encouraged. "Now I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I'm going to help you back to your mother. She's very worried about you." Vexa looked down at Queen Lysara, who stood frozen below, her entire being focused on her daughter. Then she looked back at Marcus and the bubbles still floating around them. Slowly, she nodded. Marcus secured her carefully using climbing techniques he'd learned in Earth's mountains. Together, they descended the damaged platform, bubble solution still clutched in his hand. When Vexa's feet touched solid ground, she launched herself into her mother's arms. Queen Lysara held her daughter, her aura pulsing through a spectrum of emotions Marcus couldn't fully interpret. But when she looked at him over Vexa's shoulder, something had changed in those alien eyes. "You did not use technology," she observed, her voice resonating through the chamber. "You did not calculate probabilities or implement standard rescue protocols." "No, Your Majesty," Marcus admitted. I have a daughter about her age. Sometimes the simplest things work best when someone's scared." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to address the Council. "I have studied humanity's application thoroughly," she announced. "I found them impulsive, illogical, dangerously emotional. I believe these traits made them unsuitable for the Galactic Council." She paused, her aura shifting to warm gold. "I was wrong." She looked back at Marcus. "This human did not see a princess, a diplomatic incident, or a political opportunity. He saw a frightened child, and he responded not with the cold efficiency we prize, but with something we Valorians lost long ago in our pursuit of perfection: spontaneous compassion." Queen Lysara addressed the assembly with renewed authority. "Humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their ambition. It is their ability to remain fundamentally, beautifully, stubbornly human, even among the stars. Perhaps especially among the stars." She raised her hand, crystalline fingers catching the light. "I vote to accept humanity's petition. Let their chaos, their creativity, and their curious habit of blowing bubbles in a crisis remind us all why we formed this council. Not to perfect ourselves into cold efficiency, but to preserve what makes each species unique and valuable." The vote that followed was unanimous. As the human delegation celebrated, Princess Vexa approached Marcus shyly. In her hands she held something she'd crystallized from her own body, a perfect permanent bubble frozen in prismatic crystal. "Thank you," she whispered in carefully practiced standard. "For the bubbles," Marcus smiled, accepting the gift. Somewhere across the galaxy, his own daughter was probably blowing bubbles in their backyard, never knowing that her simple toy had just changed humanity's place in the universe. Sometimes, he reflected, the most human response was also the right one.